Dominic. So we're here to talk about systemic investing. Can we start by giving us a definition?
Sure. Systemic investing is about bringing a systems lens to impact investing. Traditional impact investing focuses on one technology, one business, or one project at a time.
Yeah.
And it makes sense of the financial promise and the impact promise of an investment through that singular lens. Mm-hmm. But the world is a collection of complex adaptive systems. And all of these individual nodes, these single point solutions, are connected. I'll give you an example from mobility. At the moment, we see a lot of investment capital flowing to specific new technologies for mobility, and that are basically technology substitution, electric vehicles, Tesla, etc. But with simple technology substitution, you're not going to solve for the emergent issues that the mobility system creates: air pollution, climate change, social inequality, etc. Because a traffic jam is still a traffic jam, whether you sit in a fossil fuel car or an electric vehicle. So in order to really bring about this low carbon, climate resilient, just and inclusive mobility system, you also have to change the way cities are designed and planned, the way people move through places in space and time, the social norms and values that we attach to mobility in general. And you realize that you don't just need new technologies, you need to make changes in all kinds of nodes within that system.
So how, from an investment point of view, do you bring all this together to make sure you target the system?
It certainly requires a very different mindset at the start. So the moment you apply a systems lens to the challenge, you start thinking about investment strategies very differently, and you also start to think about collaboration models very differently. The challenge of funding systems change is really a challenge of funding architecture. So matching the right kind of capital from the right kind of source to the right kind of intervention that needs to happen, whether that's market-rate investment capital, concessional capital, public finance, like taxes and subsidies, corporate finance. What's important is that there is some sort of strategic coordination happening with respect to a shared vision for the future. The starting point for systemic investing typically is a particular change vision that you have for that system, whether that's mobility at the national level, a food supply chain, or an industrial sector. And you then want to be very deliberate about the change intent that you have, your objectives, your vision for that system, before doing some analysis to understand where is that system today, where does it need to go, and how could it possibly get there? And what are the different interventions that need to happen to send it along that change journey? And how do we fund them? Who needs to be part of that? So it's all very specific, but it leads you to an understanding of funding architecture of the coalition that you need.
This is a nascent field, right? So what are you most excited about? Where you feel that systemic investing will have the most impact in the coming year, 2024?
We see a lot of interest in the food and agriculture because food is the quintessential complex adaptive system. It is characterized not just by the way we produce food, but also by how we consume it, which is driven by culture, it's driven by behaviors, it's driven by industrial interest. And there are so many different entry points into that system that give us a chance to make the deep and structural changes that we need for that system to move from its unsustainable extractive status quo to something that's much more holistic, sustainable, agroecological. If you're a farmer looking to make that transition, you need to solve a range of problems. You need to change your farming practices. You need to procure different inputs. You need to procure different machinery. Maybe you need to do something to your land. And so the kind of capital that you will need to make that transition ranges from investment capital for new machinery, to grants for technical assistance, to maybe new insurance products to de-risk that transition for you. And so what you would ideally find is a place where you can go and say, I have the need for all of these different kinds of funding, and that funding is provided to you at an acceptable level of complexity, because you don't have the time to deal with 4 or 5 or 6 different providers of finance, a strategic allocator of capital, some sort of new financial intermediary that you can go to that has different pots of money that operate with different logics that allow you to fund all of these different things that you need to invest in order to make the transition.
Thank you so much, Dominic.